Hey guys, Scott here. Today we're going to go over patch 9.6.0. I'm not going to go too in detail here because I already covered the PTB for this and it's mostly the same. They did change a couple of things and we're going to go over that, but I want to give a quick summary in case people didn't catch that video, and this is everything that we have confirmed coming to live in just a few minutes here. So the first major thing is the whole diminishing returns update. In a nutshell, really quick, this just basically makes it so if you're stacking all of like the same effect, that effect will be less effective per thing stacking it. So for example, if you're stacking 4 haste perks on killer, you're getting 10% from one, 10% from another. Instead of getting 10 and 10, you'll get 10% for the first, and then you'll get 5% for the next effect. So if you're stacking a ridiculous amount of haste on killer, it won't be as effective. If you're stacking a ridiculous amount of, heal speed on survivor, for example, won't be as effective. They're basically just trying to make it easier to balance it in the future, where they don't have to worry about perks stacking to ridiculous levels with other perks, so they can actually make stronger perks instead of having to worry about tiptoeing in that area. This is a long-term, very good idea for the game. It's just right now, it might seem like it's only harming a little bit of fun, but over time, in theory, they will rebalance all the perks that involve this stuff, and new perks can be stronger now because of the fact they don't have to worry about things stacking. I'm still waiting to see if the level ever implement having diminishing returns for multiple survivors having the same very strong perk. I think that is something that would help address Survive with Friends a lot as well. But this is a stepping stone in introducing the idea of diminishing returns in general to the game. So I think this is fine and a good step, and hopefully we see more of this kind of in the future. Next, the 1v4 play while you wait update. This will be really good because when 2v8 comes out, queue times everywhere across the board get worse, and so this will make it so you can now use play while you wait in the regular mode as well. I am actually very happy about that because one of the worst things about 2v8 being added to the game is even if you don't want to play 2v8, your queues are still 10 times worse. So at least we'll be able to do this now, so that's really good. The whole progress bar update, basically just making it so yellow equals faster and red equals slower. It's trying to simplify things like when 2 people work on a generator, the generator is red, which makes newer players think they're having a penalty and it's going slower because technically it is a penalty, but it's not actually going slower than the real base value of a generator because 2 people are working on it. So it's just trying to simplify that a little bit. This is mostly a new player thing, but not a huge deal. Visible team perks. This is obviously one of the major ones. You will now be able to see your teammates' perks whenever the match actually starts. Again, this is not pre-lobby or anything like that. You can't dodge teammates based on their perks or anything unless you load into the game and decide to ban yourself. So it's foolproof against that, which I think overall it'd be nice to be able to plan with your solo queue teammates, but it would result in a lot of elitism and people just not engaging with teammates that are not running perfectly meta builds and stuff like that. So this is probably the best way to do it. So in game, you'll be able to see your teammates' perks. So if they get slugged, you might check if they have Unbreakable. If they got hooked and they've unhooked somebody else, check if they have Deliverance. Check if they have Resurgence to heal them off the hook real quick. Like, there's a bunch of really useful things that you can learn from your teammates' perks, and this is another step in bridging that gap between solo queue and Survive with Friends, which is something, it's the main goal that the developers have to actually do in terms of survivor balance. So that is definitely really good. So they also fixed a major issue on the PTB where the killer is just visible from the start, because you can just see exactly what they're going to be, because you would press tab and then you would just see the killer symbol and their power. And obviously that would spoil the killer. Now it only happens once a survivor enters a chase or a survivor loses a health state, basically perfectly mimicking what Survivor with Friends would actually have. So you're not going to be at any more disadvantage with Survive with Friends, but as a killer, you'll be at a very, very slight more disadvantage. I mean, I can't really think of a lot of scenarios where you get a hit and people don't know what you are immediately. There's very, very few examples of that. So it's really not going to change much of anything. Maybe a stealth killer. Even with like Wraith, you'd hear the bell uncloak. With Ghostface, you would see the exposed bar probably. With Myers, you'd probably hear a tear up sound. Like, I really don't think there's any scenario here where this is going to change much of anything. This is just, again, another thing to bridge the gap between solo queue and Survive with Friends. So that's great. Spectator mode. This is just basically giving that, if you've seen the Twitch add-on when you're watching a streamer and you can hover over their perk, you can see the description. Basically, you'll be able to do that in game. This is going to be mostly for like commentating tournaments and things like that, so viewers can see what perk does what when you highlight over it, which is cool. Again, not a huge game-changing thing, but it's nice to see anything that helps spectator mode at all. More aura customizations for specific killer elements, like looking at control stations for Xenomorph, generators that are highlighted due to perks, things like that. So just more aura customization. Can't go wrong with that. That stuff is always great. The Blight nerfs went through exactly as they were in the PTB. There's no difference whatsoever. So basically, he moves at 110% movement speed now. This is the same speed as like Huntress, for example. And whenever he breaks a pallet, he loses 2 charges below his max. So if he's at 5 charges, he will go to 3. But if he's at 2 charges, he won't lose any. So when playing this on the PTB, it felt like it almost did nothing. So honestly, it's not that huge of a nerf. Really, the main nerf to Blight here is the 5% reduction in movement speed. That is noticeable on a few loops where he can't effectively use his power because there's nothing to bounce off of, so that can feel pretty painful. But this whole thing like that the Ghoul has, it really doesn't affect Blight very much because he regenerates his tokens so much faster than Ghoul. It ends up not being a big deal at all. So really the main thing here is the 110% movement speed, but Blight still confirmed extremely good killer. Doctor had the exact same shitty number applied. You can just ignore this entire line, doesn't do anything. Bubba had his line the exact same as well, but this is a somewhat noticeable increase. This is like getting a free add-on. So this opens you up to using Chili and Beast Marks or something like that instead of having to run both of them, that and Knife Scratches. So that's nice. Bubba's still not a particularly amazing killer, still extremely reliant on Bamboozle and things like that, but that will buff him, undoubtedly. Ghostface still got the same laughable buff where it's 2 seconds to Night Shroud, and then they nerf the add-on to compensate, so yeah, just not really that great. Demogorgon is exactly the same as well. I actually got to test this turn speed, because prior on the PTB video, I didn't get to test this yet. I tested this turn speed. It's basically nothing. That's what I was saying when I was reviewing it on the PTB. You're shredding for such a short duration that even doubling the turn rate does almost nothing. I can think of maybe like 1 in 50 shreds. This will make you just barely clip someone that starts juking and you weren't able to account for it. But I tested this a bunch and I played a lot of Demogorgon back in the day, and I can tell you this will have almost no effect on his actual strength whatsoever. If anything, the thing that'll make him significantly better is his undetectable being significantly buffed by like over 100%. So he does have a lot of stomping around, but it's not about getting grabs off of generators with Demo. It's about just simply getting in shred range. And the shred range is about the range you can hear him starting to stomp around without a Terradius. So that will get you in range to shred a lot easier, and that's pretty nice. But this is a nothing burger. People were super excited for it. It really doesn't change much, if anything, I can assure you. Dredge got the exact same buff from PTB, holding his power to charge his Remnant. He now moves at the same speed as the Survivor, which is great, but still doesn't change the fact that there's typically another pallet you can just simply run to and negate him trying to do a 50-50 setup there. So Dredge is still dog shit, unfortunately. Mastermind was pretty much exactly the same. He kind of got buffs, in my opinion, which I'm kind of all for. I think Wesker is really good. Probably didn't need buffs. He's actually just a pretty decent killer, but he was buffed nonetheless. You got a couple of add-ons base kits, so that is all the same. Skull Merchant was not really touched other than a couple of icons. She needs massive buffs, so this is just, again, a laughable fuck you. Unknown is exactly the same change from the PTB. Basically, you have like 1.25 more seconds of an error window to be able to re-hit a target before they lose their weakened status effect, and you have to do the whole process over again, so that's great. Animatronic is pretty much exactly the same as well. They didn't really change anything about forcing people to use cameras in any way. The only real buff I truly like about this is you can now buffer the axe grab by holding your right mouse button down. You can just hold your right mouse button down, and the frame you become in range of someone that has an axe embedded in them, you will grab them. So that's actually my favorite buff about all of this, but this didn't really do anything to address people ignoring the camera system, and this is just nice number buff. So overall, fine, but not exactly what I was looking for. In terms of killer add-ons, everything is basically exactly the same from the PTB. Nothing really different there. One of the last major changes is Fast Track. This was different from the PTB. So now it's whenever you unhook a Survivor, you earn a token up to 3. And for each token, whenever you hit a great skill check, 5% progress is removed from a generator permanently. Basically, this means after 2 hooks or 2 unhooks, you will get a free brand new part. This is not as abusable as old Fast Track, and you actually have to do something to earn it. So I think this is a much more fair version of it. You could still have someone be a dedicated unhooker, get multiple brand new parts per match, and that could be kind of crazy. But it is definitely the maximum potential of the perk is significantly less than before, which good, because it was just wildly overpowered. It was way too strong. So I think that's a fair compromise, and you have to actually earn the perk now, so that's great. couple of little minor 2v8 changes. Oni was nerfed, which is probably a good idea because Oni in 2v8 is probably the best killer in the entire mode. But other than that, nothing else super crazy. There were a couple of other bug fixes. One of them actually involved spawning right next to the killer, which I've noticed a lot last patch. I haven't really seen anything about pallet density. They did address it as a potential issue, so I don't know. We're going to have to go in there and actually see if things are better, because sometimes they change stuff like that without actually mentioning it, so we'll actually see it there. But other than that, a couple of other bug fixes. I say a couple. It's a lot of bug fixes, and that is pretty much the same as what we're getting from the PTB. So that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.